Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. We had another question from Gina, and this is speaking of organic. She says, when I was young, we had a neighbor that would spread used coffee grounds and eggshells in their vegetable garden, and I'm wondering what benefit this would have to the plants, and would that be good for flower gardens as well?
Absolutely better for gardens than to dispose these things down the chopper upper or into the trash. Organic materials that we eat, regardless of how they're grown, in my opinion, are going to be something that decomposes and are much like leaf litter, pine needle litter, and so on in the woods that is totally unmaintained by man. There are those areas yet, and I just found several 100,000 acres of it out west. But coffee grounds will be granular to break up the soil physically to a certain small extent. Then they will turn chemically into pure organic debris, if you will. The lettuce leaves and the orange peels, banana peels, all of these things break down to, within the process of compost.
I guess that would be my first question. If you're going to spread these things in the garden, would you compost them first?
I definitely would, Mark. Now, let's just leave it at that. I definitely would compost first. I start with a nice little bucket under the counter in the kitchen. That starts to... If you leave it more than a week, it'll turn some greens and grays and yellows and things in there. It starts the breakdown process. Then they go out into the compost, which is last year's leaf pile that I put some kitchen cuttings and so on the pile. I put some leaves from the other that have not composted on top of that.
Grass clippings too?
Grass clippings too. Now, some people... And I've never gotten a definitive answer on this. When you're using weed killers and et cetera on the lawn, it probably is not a bad idea to mow a few times before you start putting the clippings into the compost pile. I don't get worried enough about this that I mix in the grass clippings right in. It makes the green part, the high nitrogen part, the leaves and other things off the kitchen counter make what's called the brown material. And between the two, in proportions, you mix them up, and you all of a sudden end up with what I literally call black gold. It's just plain stepping ahead 100 years over doing nothing with our junk clay.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com